The following presentation contains content that will offend the virtue signaling of both the left and the right, and may be a very fake threat to the fake news of our fake democracy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Paradigm Shift.
An educational comedy.
It's not a cause, not a movement.
It's not a social group you can slap a label onto.
It's an idea. It's an intention.
It's an intuition.
A mindset in which reality can be explored.
A genuine expression,
Discernment.
critical thinking, and imagination.
To look inward upon ourselves.
To better understand the external world around us.
And yes,
Few egos are bound to be bruised.
With our silly, zany, politically incorrect,
George Carlin built style of going about things.
real and raw honesty.
Which invites you to be
To the fullest.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Paradigm Shift, an educational comedy. Happy New Year, happy 2020. Hey! Maybe we're gonna have 2020 vision. I don't know. And of course, I'm Dave Kelso, and we are here visually with Jasamine Martin, Lauren Tull, and Richard Hamilton, and on audio only, we have Kristen Meyer.
Hello.
So, we are, the first episode of the year is always the same. It's always to talk about, what's kind of going to be up and coming for the next year generally. Like, obviously we can't make like specific predictions. I don't have like a crystal ball that works, but just as far as the way all the energies and probabilities and whatever way you want to phrase it seem to be going, then we can usually get a pretty good gauge on it. So of course I want to kind of put up the usual disclaimer that anybody who's looking to remain locked tight into a particular paradigm or bubble and is gonna flip their shit if I use any particular word in a way that they don't like or whatever, blah blah blah, that this probably isn't the video for you. You should probably like go watch like Star Wars trailers or My Little Pony or something. But for those of us who are grown-ups who can handle civil discussion and explore ideas, this is definitely the video for you. And 2018 was the year of darkness, so all that dark stuff was explored for 2018. 2019 was the year of light, and oh man, we've had everything from Epstein to like talk about the bright light shining, just illuminating on all the stuff that was creeping around in the dark. So now with this year of expansion, I guess you could kind of say it's going to be like 2018 plus 2019 on steroids on crack, but it's really about creating these positive opportunities for positive change within the negative. Like, there's not really gonna be much choice in the matter, and I think that there's going to be a lot of positive expansion. I've already kind of started seeing it even so far. And for those who are familiar with Cryon, well, for those who aren't, that's like channeled stuff. If you don't know what channeling is, go look it up. But regardless of who does or does not believe in that sort of stuff, Cryon tends to be a really straight shooter, kind of matter of fact in the presentations. And the stuff he's been saying about 2020 through the course of 2019 is kind of all the stuff that we've been alluding to about 2020 since long before that.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryon of Magnetic Service. 2020 is coming. It's a year I told you last week that would be difficult because it would expose duality. The dark and light would start to show itself more than ever before. It would be difficult because inappropriate things would start to show. Almost like the dirt would start coming out of the cracks, and some would be afraid, but others would realize that it had always been there. And you would see it in your politics more even than you see it now. You would see it worldwide in many countries who may very well lose their leaders yet again because of inappropriate actions that they used to do in the dark that they cannot do today. We told you that corporations would start showing inappropriate things, big ones, huge awards being given that may very well topple some inappropriate pharma. That is in store for 2020. It's about revelation, and at the same time you learn today that it is a cycle ending and beginning. It doesn't mean that there's going to be another war. Instead, what it means that you have the opportunity to come to this decision with a higher consciousness to make things different, and maybe, just maybe, the end of war. I said it before. Humans on the planet do not want to suffer or go through the horror of something called human nature. And now for the payoff, the big statement. Human nature, dear ones, is not static. You were told that it was only because that's all you've seen a certain way. The new alignment of the grid allows for higher consciousness, and that changes human nature. Human nature that is a new human does not automatically go to war. Did you hear that? That's the difference. And that's why I'm here.
So it's rather interesting. And right now, we're kind of living in this world where just, things are so shaken up, like all the old systems that do not serve, that are causing lots of problems, be they political or be they any other type of system, are starting to fall apart. And this is what happens when more positivity enters in, ironically enough. Whether you want to call it the raising of the frequency of reality, as the New Agers like to say, or, the Christ consciousness, or whatever way you want to phrase that. When you've got positive change moving in, it's almost kind of like weather, like a storm front. You've got a pressure front moving in. You've got a different temperature moving in. There's going to be a bit of a storm. And so 2020 is, I think, just going to be this really interesting storm as more positivity comes in, as more of this light, higher frequencies, whatever you want to call it. And all of the stuff that just does not serve, that, just business as usual cannot continue. And the old structures have to fall apart, and new and better things have to come into place. Like, we don't have any choice at this point. It's got to be this way. That's going to be the beginning of this process. And, the year of expansion, in my opinion, is leading into the decade of expansion. So, having nothing to do with Greta Thunberg and her panic attacks, humanity, as we've known it, really only does have until about 2030, because after that, we're either going to go to a really, really good direction or the opposite of that. And, the choice is ours. So no matter which happens, they aren't wrong about 2030. Like, it has nothing to do with Greta Thunberg's panic attacks and hyperbolic, the world is ending, chicken litter, whatever. No, it's...
chicken litter.
Chicken litter. Yeah. Well, she is Chicken Little's chicken litter, but yeah, that's besides the It's kind of funny. She's had so much backlash, mostly in the form of memes, that she's taken a break from activism to go seek anger management therapy or something, from what I've heard. And I've seen the funny memes where like you've got it to where Greta's on there, picture of her with her luxury yacht and everything, and being quoted, your empty words ruined my childhood. And then you've got like the African slave labor, like the 7-year-olds digging ditches and stuff, and the captions like, "Oh, must have been traumatizing," like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so within PSEC especially, and within this coming year, we are going to be focusing on all the stuff everyone's been afraid to talk about. And because we are going to be doing it in the most positive, in the most uplifting, the most true positive light that we can possibly shine, that true positivity, I'm fully confident that most people are going to view it as negative, as nihilistic, as hateful, as fatalistic, as hate speech, as whatever, because
all of the above.
yeah, because like that's what seems to happen. You point out something positive, you say, "Hey, this negative thing is going on, but let's come together for solutions. We can do this. We have the power." You're so negative. Like, did you miss the point where I said we had the power? Like, we could come together. We could do that. You're so negative. Shut up, because you said fire's hot. It's like, okay, whatever, man. So, it's just like, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of reactions, to us in that. But hey, I'm going to shine my light. Which also means we're not going to be talking so much about how the criminals run the world and the elites and all that. Like, except for the little bit of residual communitarianism topics we still have to cover, because I promised Lark that we would. Other than that, it's like, if you want to know about that stuff, go look at the 2017, 2018, 2019, like those videos are there. Go look at those. We're going to be moving in some different directions now. Sure, we're going to acknowledge the criminals. Yeah, they exist. We're going to acknowledge Clown World, but we're not going to really harp on it. We're going to look into the nitty gritty of the specifics of the dichotomies and the dialectics and the psychology and spirituality of it, and just kind of looking at things like what positivity actually is and isn't, what unconditional love actually is and isn't, because there's just so many people that are like, "Oh, I'm unconditionally loving, I'm positive, blah blah blah," and you kind of put that to the test, and by their works you shall know them, and it's just like they don't really react well.
I relate to that so well.
Yeah, it's just instantly hypocritical, and I'm not even looking to condemn these people, because that's calling the sky blue as well. I'm looking to go into more discussions of like why these things are happening. Just kind of looking at the configuration of it, and I think the communitarianism discussions was a good start on that too, because it really starts to go into dichotomy and dialectic. Not so much about the perpetrators, but just like how that works, how that little mindfuck virus works. And the more we can know about that, just the easier it'll be for us to be able to step outside of that and create the positive change we're looking for. And there's definitely a cool new like parable that I'm going to give an abridged version to that Cryon shared recently that is really awesome. But first, I think each and every one of us here have our stories so far of how, as we've been moving out of 2019 and into 2020, the things we've faced, and we've been forced to expand, forced to drop, more of the counterproductive stuff that we were clinging to, the fire lit up under our ass, and really forced to move more into the positive, productive direction. And I really think that, especially for this, I think it would be appropriate to start with Kristen, because she's been really doing that like a boss. So I'm going to shut up and let her talk.
Okay. So I just want to start off by saying I haven't really necessarily tried to think out how I wanted to put this into words, but basically I have been coming up against like some conflicts in my interpersonal relationships and my living situation that have been there for a couple of years now. And just as far as these specific problems, really, like my whole life, I've had similar problems. Like, basically, it comes down to this issue regarding codependency and trying to basically come to terms with two different things. So for like me, it's what this other person, what they want and what they need, conflicting with what I want and what I need. And then also, like, just realizing that sometimes when we're wanting or needing something, it's not always from a healthy place necessarily. Yada yada. So, really, I've just been basically like having to realize that as much as I've had low self-esteem, fears about not knowing how my life's going to turn out, not knowing what's going to happen, not being able to control situations, that I still have to choose who I am and choose what to do anyways, simply for the sake of who, like, because I want to make the choice. And like, a big thing is realizing that as much as I love someone and as much as they love me, you sometimes will have to be the one to make judgment calls where you have to place your needs first, and you'll have to be the one to set a different tone in your relationship or a situation where things have been going the same way and they've been going the same way. And like, instead of using that as an excuse to keep doing more and more of the same thing, you choose to change it. You choose to meet your own needs, and then also realize, like, just some of the things I had always thought were my needs weren't really, like, just, I don't know, it's kind of like an identity thing, just, like, choosing who you are, choosing what your identity is, and staying strong to that, no matter what else happens. And, like, I know with this being the year of expansion, it's just going to keep coming up more and more of, like, well, what you are is going to expand. What, like, the core of who you are, the core of every situation, it's going to expand. So, like, it's my job to choose what I want to expand. Do I want it to be more of, like, my baggage and my toxic shit, or do I want it to be, like, parts of myself that I actually would like to see grow and my living situation? So, just a lot of, like, choice points that are outside of a comfort zone. Just, and it's really hard because the truth is you don't know what's on the other side of that. It could be like the miracle you're looking for, or it could mean a collapse of something you think is what you need. But either way, it's just kind of got to happen.
I think one of the challenges too, and I can definitely speak to this, and especially recently, and I know you and Richard both are going to know what I'm alluding to, that even when you're having some difficulty, like, let's say within a friendship, and there's some contrast and there's some collision, and maybe the other person is kind of being a bit foaming at the mouth, if you know what I mean, that it doesn't mean there's no truth in what they're saying. You
Right.
both know what I've experienced recently, and, like, yeah, even though what I was at the receiving end of. Oh my God, I'm not even going to get into details, but you know, the other person still had a lot of valid points to make, and you know, it's totally aligned with how where life has been directing me as well, and through the end of 2019 and in the beginning of 2020, for me there's just been a lot of dropping of things that don't serve and moving into more things that do. I mean, we had some contrasty circumstances here with the power company that has now empowered us and pushed us into getting solar. I haven't announced this on any PSEC episode yet or anything, so this is a cool thing to announce on this episode. We're going solar. We're essentially going to have no electric bill. I mean, there's going to be a line charge, but it's almost like not having a bill at all anyway. And the system that's being set up is going to be really cool. If there's any surplus power at the end of the year, ComEd will just cut us a check for whatever the residual is. Otherwise, it's just going to be tit for tat, credit for credit. Power used, power given, that sort of thing. And also, it's going to have a 25-year warranty, and there's going to be this thing to where I can refer anybody in the country, in the entire United States. Like, let's say hypothetically, Jasmine, you had your own place. Well, you kind of technically have it now, but and let's say your family wanted to go to do the solar thing, right? Well, I could call up the person who hooked me up and say, hey, I need you to go to South Carolina, talk to Jasmine's family, and see if they want to get hooked up with solar. And if
That's funny.
if they get hooked up with solar, I get $1,000 referral check for making that happen. That's one of those cool abundance things too. And there's more I could say about it, but I'm not. That'll be a whole other episode. I'm not going to harp on it. But the point is, there was this negative contrast with changes within the power company that inspired this move into solar. And there's all sorts of discounts and rebates and things like that. State rebates. My dad's going to get a veteran's discount because he's fully disabled, and like all this other stuff factoring into where not only is it super cheap, 25-year warranty, like it's all good. So there's this expansion into the positive through the facing of that negative. The negative being ComEd is Illinois' power cartel, criminal cartel. And even though you can't really fully escape the grid, especially in Chicago, there are still certain things you can do. And being able to get solar and having virtually no power bill and a 25-year warranty on it, that's awesome. Negative circumstances prompted that, but it was still a positive result. It was viewing the negative as a positive opportunity for positive change. That's the direction we're moving into. And the collision that I had with that friend, has just kind of shown me that, even though I've done, basically okay with going from where I was to where I am with my diet, I still need changes and improvements. So I'm going to be ditching soda. It's going to be juice and water for me, and other various improvements. And this collision with this friend of mine, it just validated that for me. Like, I didn't see them as being nasty. Well, like, yeah, they were being a little, but still I saw through it and saw to the valid points and let it inspire me and validate. Okay, yeah, I think it would be a good idea to make this move that I was considering in the first place. Yes, Jasmine.
Okay. You were talking about my family wanting to get solar. We have actually had a couple electric companies wanting to put solar panels on our roof and stuff. My dad is completely against solar. Completely against solar power.
Why?
I don't know why. He just is. It's like whenever my mom or anyone asks him if he wants to get solar panels or anything, he's just into like, no, absolutely not. I don't know why.
Do you think it's going to cause like UV radiation's going to pour through the solar panels and onto them and cause cancer or something? What?
I don't know. But
That is like the ultimate in misery crack. Like, yes, instead of being liberated in my
mom would like
my energy generation and usage, I want to continue to be enslaved by power cartels because I love bending over and taking it like a bitch because that's just my misery crack and what I love to do. Fuck anything empowering. Screw solar. Forget it. In fact, I drink oil for breakfast with my eggs and bacon. Go petrol, go, 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 with a little nuclear on the side for some extra radioactive vitamins. What fuck solar?
Yeah, I know. I don't know why he's like that. He's really weird. He's a child in a man's body. Yes, that's all I
Richard, are
can
you
say.
still here? Like, oh, there he is. Okay, I saw. Like, I
I was
didn't
about
see
to
him
say,
on.
where'd he go?
Okay, he was just off to the side, I think, because I see hands
Yeah,
moving and things going on
yeah,
here.
same.
So, what's
Metatags.
what experiences have you been having, Jasmine, as far as letting go of old patterns and seeing things as an opportunity for positive change? Like, I know that your relatively new friendship with Lauren has been a part of that. You've been getting a lot of practice, being a friend and giving love and accepting a friendship. And I know that you guys have both been helping
Yeah,
each other expand and grow as.
dealing with
So,
feisty ones.
so I mean, I think that's been very positive for both of you, and I'd
Yeah.
love to hear more about that from both of you if you both don't mind sharing.
Not at all. I don't mind.
One big thing that uh and Lauren, you'll know what I'm talking about, is learning that it's okay if you have friends that just can't be friends. It's okay if people just don't mix well together. It's okay if you have two friends that just can't get along. It's okay. Because people are different. People have their own different problems, and there are just some people you just can't help. There are just some people that you just can't make be friends. So I've stopped doing that. So that's helped me like be okay that to it just be okay with it not being okay.
Absolutely, like on the grander scale, that's really what world peace would be. If everybody had the wherewithal to know that if you don't get along with someone, just stay the fuck away from them. It's not about trying to get everybody to think the same way, to believe the same things, to like each other. It's just about that respect. Like, okay, they don't like me, I don't like them. So if we don't fight with each other and we stay away from each other, there's peace. There's,
Yeah.
like
It's like sometimes the best thing to do is just to not come in contact with each other very much at all.
Yeah.
It's not bad or horrible or negative if two people
Yeah, it's just
don't resonate. It doesn't make any of them the
they
bad
just
guy,
don't
any of them
mix.
the villain. Yeah. And, like, neither of them are the bad guy. Neither of them are the villain. There's
Yeah,
just
neither of
there's
them.
no compatibility. But that's okay. And
Yeah, they're just
the idea that
different
somehow
kinds
that's
of
not
people.
okay, that's pure narcissism.
Yeah, and I don't have to stop being friends with one or the other. I can still be friends with both and hang out with them.
So many more.
I just can't. I just can't have
Talk to
they.
both of us at the
No,
same
So,
time.
yeah,
so,
I can't.
so
I
many
just
so
can't.
many more
Yeah.
wise Generation Z people than millennials. Good Lord. But yes, please do continue. Lauren, you have anything to add on that?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
You learned anything this year?
I learned anything this year. You mean 2019?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like moving into this year of
Yeah.
expansion, like the viewing the negative as a positive opportunity, letting go of things that no longer serve, moving into things that are better for you, that expansion, that true genuine positive change.
Well, for one thing, I am not gonna continue going to college because I don't feel like I should waste money on something that because I want to be like in history, and basically it's the same damn thing. It doesn't matter how you teach, it's the same dang thing. Same dang events happen. And I'm also working and getting a job at the museum I volunteer at and looking at other volunteer positions and other places that I'm interested in